previous movie, and we somehow we did remember the two of us that a friend of ours, someone we knew, was a social linguist and used to record endangered languages. And so we thought that since we always work with the end of something, our previous movies are one on in Japan, Fukushima aftermath, and another one Shin Kubota is about a man dreaming of immortality. We thought it could be a good idea to work on a language that is disappearing. And so we really opened up the atlas of UN that maps the endangered languages all around the world. Plenty of them. And not completely by accident, we found out that in Japan there are at least 2-3 languages that are disappearing. And the one of Yonaguni seemed to us that it was really the one, because of the Duna language is spoken on this small island, and there is a small community still speaking this language, and very few people left. And so we brought to Patrick Heinrich, who is a very famous and important social linguist, a German professor, who spent a lot of time studying this language. And we went for the first time with him for a survey in 2018. And finally we realized that when a language disappears, a lot of things vanished with it, in terms of cultural issues, religion, and so on. And not completely by accident, but one day we saw the farewell party of Genki, of one of the kids we filmed, who was leaving the island for the first time, for going to high school, and we thought that this was very strong, and it was a very nowadays, it was a metaphor of a whole culture disappearing. And so we decided to tell this story through the farewell of a group of teenagers leaving the island forever, probably.
I have a question regarding you being a directors who are not local, who arrive in this country, in this very specific culture. Because in general, at our festival, we have a lot of discussions this year. Like, many directors coming from European countries go and explore different cultures, and we discuss how ethical actually it is, and what is the real ethnography, because there are some approaches, some quite radical approaches that we do not share, but that movies should be made by those who actually live here. But I think your film is a great example of how directors can actually be very respectful and sensitive towards other cultures. So I wanted you to share what tools you use, what were your approaches, how did you actually found this, specificity of the mentality that allowed you to show it to us with a respect?
I think that in this case, ethical and cinema are in the same level, because everything is made by time in this movie, because we spend a lot of time in meeting people and spending time with them without filming, actually, and then the story comes, and so I think our main ethical point of view is spending time with people and try to put in a movie the distance that still exists between them and us, of course. But it's still also like an age distance because they are teenagers. So I think if you seen the movie, you saw that we are very careful about kind of distance, and we always every image that you have seen in this movie is filmed by a 50 lens camera, so there's no other lens, and this is kind of ethical point of view that is very important for us. And then also there's another thing that I could say, that Japan is a very rich country. I can hear myself, it's quite strange, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was saying that Japan is a quite rich country, it's a very rich country actually. So normally people don't ask these kind of questions, and I'm very happy that you do, because I and Vittorio, we really believe that these ethical questions are important, even for a very rich country like Japan. So thank you for your question.
Do you have more questions?
Yeah. Yeah, actually here with us we have Olivia, who is about to ask a question. He works at the local ethnographic museum, Torun Ethnographic Museum, and she specializes on the Far East cultures and specifically on Japanese language and culture. So, Olivia?
Yes, hello. It's nice to meet you. I'm Olivia Genza. Far East culture expert from Ethnographic Museum in Torun. So, first of all, I would like to say that I really enjoyed your video and document. It's very interesting in this area that somehow for Japanese societies, even if there is more than 100 islands in Japanese, some Japanese people cannot, or maybe even don't know that there is an island like a Yonaguni, so this is very interesting. And I have 3 questions. I had 4, but one of this question was already asked. So my first question is because Yonaguni, the island Yonaguni, is in a very specific area, the area of a dispute between Japan, China and Taiwan. And from 2016, the Japanese government made in the Yonaguni Islands the specific military area, which is made for the Erie Arald bases, something like that. That's the bases will make the specific information to the Japanese government that something will happen. And I'm very curious if this basis somehow affect the Yonaguni societies. So this is my first question. And the second question is, I wrote everything, so I will just look at my notes. The second question is that do you know if there is any government programs that protect the Duncan Munui language? Because as we know that, for example, the Ainu language, this is the first, the most rare local or native language in Japan, but Duncan Munui is the second language. And I'm very curious if there is any government program that will protect the language, or maybe if there is no any local, or maybe if there is no any government program, maybe there is any local program or any other local projects that can protect the Duncan Munui language. And the third, so the last question is that we can see in the movie that there is a lot of young people who lives the Yonaguni island, but what happened with the people, with the young people who decide to not leave the island? What is their future, or maybe what they want to do in the island? after finished secondary school. So those are my 3 questions. Thank you.
Yeah. The easiest to reply, to answer, is that there is any national program to save the language. There are a few people, like local people, that are somehow working on preserving not only the language but some traditional issues. And what you said before is quite true. We had the chance to experience the movie. I mean, we in April and May we went around in Japan because our movie was out in cinemas in Tokyo and Kyoto, and it was very beautiful. And we were very lucky to follow our movie in Japan. But sincerely, it was quite more exotic to people from main part of Japan than to a European audience. That means that really this kind of archipelago is quite it seems farther to them than to us somehow. And they were very astonished as an audience to see some images that we shoot and that are not that exotic, finally. And I don't remember the first question, sorry, but the third one is that kids, young people come back, or if they don't leave. We have one of our main protagonists of the movie. She really stayed, the girl in the horse at the very end of the movie when all leaving, and she stays on the island. But I would say that it's quite a similar thing. Normally, what we know that it happens is that after high school and after university, very few, like, we can say something around like the 10% of people come back because probably they have like a family business or a good reason to, like an economical reason to come back. But once they experience something else, it's hard for them to come back, and especially it's not. I mean, it's also often a political and an economical reason. There's no the island. There is no hospital. There's no infrastructure. I don't know how to say, but it's very hard to choose to come back. So, but it's not only about them. Many people, they don't have the freedom to come back, the option to come back.
I remember the first question was about the military base. I think I didn't hear everything in your question, but I can say that the island was shared in 2 parts because they had this referendum in 2015, and so they had to decide if they would have or not the base, and the yes won by very few votes, and the island, of course, still has the scars of this fight. We can say that there are some 2,200 soldiers. Of course, this thing changes a lot of things. There are new kids going to school, that is true, but not that much. And the main thing is that the Japanese government promised to the island to bring work and to bring security, but actually it is not so much work. that has been added by the base. Some bars, of course, they can now open later, but it's not that much actually. It doesn't change the thing that design will be probably an empty island in 20 years. Or a military island. That's also an option.
Thank you for answering. I have the next question. Since this year we are hosted by Cover Image, which is a festival of cinematography, and you already mentioned that you deliberately chose this distant approach, which I think is greatly corresponds to the mentality, specific mentality of Yonaguni and Japanese culture in general. But I was wondering, because you mentioned that it's a third film about Japan. Is it the same approach in all the movies and like in general when you're working on your films? How do you approach this camera work and like how do you brainstorm of what camera work should be?
I'm not sure that I heard all your questions, but if you are thinking about the 50 lens camera, that's the way we film almost every time we film. And actually, this kind of distance is also because that's how we are, I think, Victoria and me. And also, actually, we are a very small crew because we are just Victoria and me. We do everything. We make the sound, we make the image, and then, of course, we have people for the post-production. I mean, there's a wonderful editor, and I'm very thankful to him. But actually, yes, this kind of work it's kind of architecture of our work. I mean, we are spending time. We are not filming that much. We are always saying when we are filming. We are filming like in the old times. We are saying like. Rolling and then action, like we were shooting a 70 feet. But then it becomes like a deal between the people who film and we and us. And so yes, I think that I could speak a lot about that. I think it's enough.
Any question from audience?
Yes.
Yeah, one more question from audience.
Hello, good evening. My name is David. I'm a cinematographer. And I have a question.
Hello, thank you.
Well, beautiful work. I did enjoy a lot. Did you have any major problems making the movie? Did you have any obstacles, difficulties making the movie, or went very smooth? First question. And second question, how long did it take you to get all the footage?
Yeah, thank you. We filmed for 2 years in 4 different sessions, around like an average of 1 month per session or something like that. No, finally, concerning, I mean, any difficulties we did, and I would say we had experienced other projects that were much more difficult to film and to make. So I wouldn't say that it was a difficult project. It took time. I mean, as Anush said, we prefer to be like in this like border situation. We are the 2 of us. There are no. I mean, we are a small crew, but what we have in advance is that we have time to spend with the people that are part of the film. So actually, Yonaguni can be a kind of a place in terms of way of living. but people were like very nice to us, and also thanks to that has been really opening the gates when we started this project. So we had the chance to meet the right people even before starting filming. So I cannot. I mean, I speak for Anders too, but I think we really fell in love with that place and with people in Yonaguni, and I can't remember any difficult moments in those 2 years. So.
Yeah, we have more questions.
So I just got a very simple question: that do you have a plan to make another document about another island of Japan?
Yeah. we are going back to Japan in January, and we are for a survey. So we are at the very beginning of our project. Actually, we are going to an island which was an island, and it's now not an island. The last century, it's a very famous place. It's called Sakurajima. It's a volcano island, but more or less 1 century ago, the big ocean, and now it's not an island anymore. But it's kind of island, and it's still kind of end of the world story, I would say. And so yeah, so we go back in January, and yeah, and then we'll see. Of course, it's just the beginning.
I have a question, since we are kind of educative film festival as well, and very often it happens so that after watching movies from the far distance lands that we haven't been to, we actually travel there, or our audience travel there. So obviously Yonaguni and Japan is very far from Ukraine, and I think none of our team have ever been there. Probably as most of Ukrainians. So if we travel there, what would you say would be the entry points to the culture? How to best experience it? You know, like if we approach it not from touristic side, but if we're going there as ethnographers, as researchers.
There is one place that normally, even the few tourists that go to Yonaguni, they don't visit, and we can tell you, but you swear that you don't tell to anybody. No, I mean, the Yonaguni itself, there are very, very few people that go up to there, but if you ever go and you take 4 planes and you take 1.5 days to go there, there are 3 villages, and the 3 of them are very beautiful, and but the oldest one is Sonai, and at the end of the village there is some roads, like a nest of roads going to a graveyard, and in Yonaguni they used to, they still bury dead people, that is very rare in Japan. I mean, it's the only place in Okinawa, in the archipelago, they do that. Normally they burn them. And it's kind of a city of dead people. I know it seems sad, but it's very beautiful and it's peaceful. And we always, with Anush, we walk often in this part of the city because it's kind of part of the village. And then you have some roads that go through these big tombs, like 3 meters tall. And we were always like thinking how beautiful is that place, because it tells a lot of this island and how even if a small place like that has thousands of stories and thousands of lives, actually, as everywhere, but Yonaguni is a kind of our place. We decided it was our place. So I would say that the graveyard is a good starting point to understand Yonaguni.
Thanks for this insight. We won't tell anyone but use it ourselves. And I'm afraid we're running out of time, but one more question, because at the end of the movie there is a beautiful poetry in Tunan language, and it's really great, and I would love to read more of that, but I actually Googled and not much out there. Do you have any more poems, and are there some translations to English?
Actually, there is this big professor, Patrick Heilig. We've been working with him, and he's doing with his students some work in translating this Yonaguni word, the poetry in Tunan. And so it is still something that they are doing right now. So they are translating, which is very complicated. And the fact is that translating this poetry, we can understand that we are losing this language because we can translate the words, but sometimes we don't understand what's the meaning behind the words, which is very interesting because, for instance, in the movie there's this song in which somebody tells a story that you need to go from the east point to the west point of the island, and waiting for the sake to do I don't know what in English, sorry, but and this is, of course, we can understand what they're saying, but we don't understand what's behind this, because of course there's some symbol of something, there's some sign, and we don't know. So short answer, they are translating, but something has lost. And this is the sad story about losing languages, of course. One of the sad stories about that.
Any more questions?
It's just a...
And I got just one more feature.
Right. It's just an observation based on the losing languages and archiving languages. It just a comment really, not really a question. It came to mind that there's this organisation in London called, I think it's based in London, called the Long Now Foundation, and I think they've been archiving languages for many years, and they're trying to save as many as possible. Actually, the musician Brian Eno's involved with them on a big level. So I was just wondering if you knew about that, because I don't know off the top of my head if the language there with Yonaguni is being archived, but it's just a sort of observational, something to potentially draw your attention to if you didn't know already. So.
I just wanted to say that for everybody who
actually,
are watching. Sorry. I just want to say that for everybody who are watching who watched this document and taking care about the animals living, and for the jury maybe, that this document also is very beautiful and specific because it shows the pictures about one of the most rare horse kind, the Yonaguni horse, which is very rare and exists only in this island. So this is very beautiful, and I very appreciate it, and I want to say this, thank you for this document because of this. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Our festival is really so educative. We can know so many things about the place and people and details, go into details to know, and political even situation about this island. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's less than a minute left. I'm afraid we're running out of time and we have to close the cinema, I believe. But thank you guys for joining us. We really enjoyed the movie. It was a beautiful ending of this festival day. And hopefully next year we can invite you personally with your next film.
Yeah! when we talk with Lena some secrets from our work, when we text each other, for example, some films impress us so much, and we said, "Oh my God, you have to to watch it now," because it's so cool. Wow, I just started to look for this island, for this place in Google, and you will do it the same, okay? And it's really like this because before the film. And this is the mission of documentaries, to open, to teach, to discover. And it's so cool because now we can't come there, to go there, but we can know about this and travel through the films, just sitting in the cinema.
Yeah, and in case we need any insights like cemetery or any other unique places, we can always contact authors. So we are really building the network that help us to discover places, not as tourists, but as locals, as researchers, and even deeper, like going beyond it.
Yeah, and one more thing. After Poland, after this edition, we have also the project Oko Travels, which we use now like a cultural diplomacy, like to tell people about Ukraine more, and we usually travel with Ukrainian films, and after Poland we go to Finland, and then after Finland we are going to Sofia, Bulgaria, and after this only we are going to Belgrade to show the winners. Maybe this film will be, I don't know, jury knows. To show it to the local people, and we can make. This idea came this day that we can make not only friendship with these directors, but to make maybe some connections to come with Ukrainian movies there. So this is our idea, and if you have some comments or idea, or you can help with contacts, and you know the place that it will be good to show Ukrainian films, just tell us. we are ready to come with the films.
Yeah, I believe it's time to wrap up this day, and I think it was a beautiful ending. So thank you everyone who stayed committed, and we are looking forward to meeting you tomorrow.
Yeah. Have a good night.